My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 25 years old, living with my parents and younger brother in a small house just outside Atlanta, Georgia. I work a steady job at a logistics company. The pay isn't amazing, but it covers the electric, water, internet, and most of the groceries. Honestly, if I hadn't been pitching in, the AC would have died last summer, and we'd all be sweating through those Georgia nights. Last Thanksgiving, I came home after a long shift, still in my jacket, smelling faintly of the office coffee machine. The living room was half decorated, with a sagging turkey banner from the dollar store and a few mismatched candles on the table. My mom, Patricia, was setting out a plate of sliced turkey and gravy. My dad, Stephen, sat at the head of the table, gripping a beer can, staring at the flickering chandelier like it owed him something. My brother, Ethan, 17 and quiet, was scrolling on his phone, probably trying to tune out the tension. Dinner started in silence, heavy and thick, broken only by the clink of forks and a faint country song drifting from the kitchen radio. I scooped some green beans onto my plate and gave Ethan a small smile. He glanced up, his eyes tired but warm, like he was grateful I was there. Then, out of nowhere, my dad slammed his beer can down, the sharp thud making me flinch. "Lauren," he said, his voice low, his eyes locking onto mine. "You're a burden. You can't stay here anymore." The words hit like a punch. I thought I'd misheard him. My mom let out a nervous, brittle laugh, like she was hoping it was a joke, but Dad's face was stone-cold serious. The room felt like it froze. Ethan's fork hovered mid-air, a piece of turkey stuck on it. He stared at me wide-eyed, like he couldn't process what he'd just heard. I set my fork down slowly, my hand steady even though my heart was racing. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. "You heard me," Dad said, leaning forward. "This is my house. You've been here too long, eating our food, taking up space. It's time you go." I couldn't find words. I wasn't staying because I had nowhere else. I could afford a small apartment. I'd stayed because they needed me. Dad hadn't worked since the factory shut down 4 years ago. Mom's part-time job at the grocery store barely covered her gas. Without my paychecks, the lights would have gone out months ago, and now, on Thanksgiving, they were calling me a freeloader. Mom opened her mouth, but Dad cut her off. "I've made up my mind, Pat." Ethan dropped his fork, the clatter loud in the silence. "If you can kick her out like that," he said, his voice shaking, "who's next? Me?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to scream or beg. If they wanted me gone, I'd go. But they'd feel what it meant to lose me. I leaned back in my chair, looking at Dad. "All right," I said, my voice flat. He gave a small, smug nod, like he'd won something. Mom kept her eyes on her plate, silent, maybe shocked, maybe just checked out. I stood, picked up my half-eaten plate, and walked to the sink. I couldn't sit there another second. Before leaving the kitchen, I turned to Ethan and gave him a quick nod. He was the only one in that house I still cared about. No one spoke. The clinking of utensils stopped, like everyone had lost their appetite. I went upstairs, shut my bedroom door, and started packing. No tears, no second thoughts. They wanted me out, so I'd leave. But starting tomorrow, those lights would go dark, and that house would feel colder than a Georgia winter. I pulled my suitcase from under the bed, opened my closet, and started folding clothes. Every shirt, every pair of jeans, every notebook I'd bought with my overtime pay. It all went into the suitcase, quiet as a goodbye. That night, I drove to Hannah Carter's apartment, my suitcase rattling in the trunk. Hannah, my coworker from the logistics company, lived in a small one-bedroom place about 10 miles from our office in Atlanta. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, eyes heavy with exhaustion, she didn't ask a million questions. She just hugged me tight and said, "You can stay as long as you need." Her living room had a pull-out couch, a cozy blanket, and a coffee table stacked with takeout menus. It wasn't much, but it felt warmer than the house I'd just left. I thanked her, set my suitcase by the couch, and sank into the cushions, still processing what had happened at dinner. Thanksgiving was supposed to be about gratitude, but all I got was a kick out the door. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of Hannah's coffee brewing. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Dad's already complaining about the Wi-Fi lagging. Mom's quiet, just staring at her coffee. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into the accounts I'd been paying for years: electric, water, internet, even the Netflix subscription Mom used to binge her crime shows. My name was on every single one tied to my bank account. I'd been the one keeping the lights on, the water running, the router blinking. Without me, that house would grind to a halt. I took a deep breath and started removing my information. One by one, I clicked Remove Payment Method and confirmed each change. No warnings, no explanations. They'd never listened when I tried to talk, so why start now? By noon, I'd untangled myself from every bill. It felt like cutting a rope I'd been tied to for years. Hannah peeked over from the kitchen. "You okay?" she asked, handing me a mug of coffee. "Yeah," I said, managing a small smile. "Just done being their ATM." She nodded like she got it and didn't push. That afternoon, my phone lit up again. "Ethan, power's out. Dad's yelling at Mom, saying it's her fault for not paying the bill. They don't know it's you yet." I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Part of me felt a pang for Ethan, stuck in that mess, but I couldn't keep living my life for them. I texted back, "Hang in there, Ethan. I'm here if you need me." A few hours later, Mom called. Her voice was shaky, almost pleading. "Lauren, the electricity's off. The fridge isn't working, and we can't even charge our phones. What's going on?" I stayed calm, sipping my coffee. "I stopped paying the bills, Mom. Those were on me, remember?" There was a long pause, then a week. "But we thought you wanted to help." "I did," I said, my voice steady. "For years. And you let Dad call me a burden. I'm done." I hung up before she could argue. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. For the first time in forever, I felt like I was choosing myself. Hannah's apartment was small, but it was safe. No one was yelling at me for existing. That night, I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling. I wasn't just free from their house. I was free from their weight, but I knew this was only the beginning. They wouldn't let go that easily. A week after I cut the bills, the chaos at home was in full swing. Ethan texted me daily, his messages short but heavy. Dad's smashing stuff in the garage, Mom's crying about the internet. I felt for him, trapped in that house, but I couldn't go back. I was settling into Hannah's apartment, sleeping on her pull-out couch, trying to focus on work and not the guilt gnawing at me. Then one morning, while I was sipping coffee and checking emails, my phone pinged with a bank alert. Suspicious login attempt from an unrecognized device. My stomach dropped. I logged into my account and saw 3 failed attempts to access it, all from an IP address I didn't recognize. I changed my password right away, adding 2-factor authentication with my fingerprint. Deep down, I knew who was behind it. Dad. He'd always known I handled the money, and now that I'd pulled the plug, he was desperate. I called Ethan to check. His voice was low, like he was hiding. "Lauren, Dad's been on Mom's old laptop all night, muttering about fixing this." "I saw him scribbling down your bank's website." My grip tightened on the phone. "Thanks, Ethan. Keep your head down, okay?" I hung up, my heart racing but my mind clear. Dad wasn't just mad, he was trying to claw his way back into control. I spent the day double-checking every account, locking down my email, my PayPal, even my Amazon. By evening, I thought I'd covered everything. But Dad wasn't done. 2 nights later, I was at Hannah's, eating takeout pizza and watching a sitcom to unwind. Around 9 p.m., a loud banging shook the apartment door. Hannah froze, her slice halfway to her mouth. "Who's that?" she whispered. I crept to the peephole, my pulse hammering. There was Dad, red-faced, fists pounding the door. "Lauren, open up. You think you can just walk away and ruin us?" His voice was slurred, like he'd been drinking. Hannah's eyes widened, and she grabbed her phone. "I'm calling 911, she said, her voice shaky. I nodded, stepping back but keeping my eyes on the door. "Lauren," Dad yelled, banging harder. "You're a traitor! After everything we did for you!" Each word stung, but I didn't flinch. I'd heard his rants before. This time I wasn't his punching bag. I dialed 911 myself, my voice steady as I spoke. "My dad's at my friend's apartment, banging on the door and threatening me. He's not supposed to be here." The dispatcher was calm, asking for the address. "Officers are on the way. Stay inside, don't open the door." Hannah stood by me, clutching her phone, her face pale. Through the peephole, I saw Dad pacing the hallway, muttering, then slamming his fist again. "You can't hide forever," he shouted. My chest tightened, but I didn't budge. Minutes later, sirens wailed outside and red lights flashed through the window. Heavy footsteps echoed up the stairwell. A firm knock came. "Police! Open the door!" I cracked it open and 2 officers stepped in, their radios crackling. "Sir," one officer said to Dad, "you're causing a disturbance. You need to leave now." Dad spun around, his face twisted. "She's my daughter. I have a right to see her." The officer stayed calm. "Not like this. She called us because she feels threatened. Leave or we'll arrest you." Dad lunged toward the door, pointing at me. "You'll regret this, Lauren." The officers grabbed him, pulling his arms behind his back. Handcuffs clicked shut. As they led him away, his shouts echoed down the hall. Hannah shut the door, her hands shaking. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, but my throat was tight. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You'll pay for this." No name, but I knew it was him. I screenshot it and emailed it to the police, my hands steady. Dad could try to scare me, but I wasn't backing down. Not anymore. A few days after Dad's arrest, I was still shaken, but trying to move forward at Hannah's place. Ethan kept me updated, texting about how the house was falling apart. No power, no Wi-Fi, Mom barely talking. I felt bad for him, but I couldn't fix their mess anymore. Then one morning, I got a text from Ethan that made my blood run cold. "Your car's parked outside the house. Saw Mom driving it yesterday. My car, a beat-up Silver I'd left at Hannah's, was supposed to be safe." I checked with Hannah, and the spare key was still in her kitchen drawer. That meant Mom had somehow gotten a copy I didn't know about. My chest tightened with anger. First Dad tried to hack my bank account, now Mom was stealing my stuff. I drove Hannah's car to the old house, my hands gripping the wheel. Sure enough, there was my car, parked crooked in the driveway. I got out and peered through the window. Inside was a grocery bag with Mom's favorite reusable tote, a gas station receipt dated 2 days ago, and a pair of her sneakers on the passenger seat. She'd been using my car like it was hers. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm, and called Ethan. "Is Mom home?" I asked. "Yeah," he whispered. "She just got back from the store. I'm upstairs." "Stay there," I said. "I'm coming in." I rang the doorbell and Mom opened it, her hair messy, clutching a worn purse. Her eyes narrowed when she saw me. "Lauren, what are you doing here?" she asked, like I was the one out of line. "You took my car," I said, keeping my voice even, "and I want it back." She scoffed, stepping aside to let me in. "It was just sitting there. You weren't using it. I borrowed it for errands." I laughed, but it was bitter. "Borrowed? You've been driving it for days, using my gas. And where's my old phone? The one I left in my room?" She froze, then looked away. "I sold it," she said, no apology. "We needed money for your dad's meds." I stepped into the living room, noticing my old charger was gone from the coffee table. "You sold my phone and took my car because I'm not here to pay for everything?" I asked, my voice sharp now. Mom turned, her face hard. "You left us, Lauren. You don't get to judge." That was it. I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the police," I said. Her eyes widened. "I'm your mother. You can't do this." "You stole from me," I said, already dialing 911. "I gave you a chance to make it right. You didn't." When the cops arrived, I showed them the receipt in the car and the GPS app I used to track my car's movements around town. I explained how Mom sold my phone without permission. She tried to argue, saying it was family property, but she had no proof. The officer handed me my keys and said, "You can file a theft report if you want." I looked at Mom. Her hands were shaking, her face pale. "Lauren, don't," she whispered. "I'm just protecting what's mine," I said, my voice steady. I took my car and drove back to Hannah's, leaving the house behind. They'd crossed a line and I wasn't their doormat anymore. After Mom stole my car and sold my phone, I knew staying at Hannah's wasn't safe anymore. Dad was out on bail. Ethan texted me that he'd been released after a buddy posted it. And those threatening messages from an unknown number kept coming. The latest one read, "You can't run forever." I showed Hannah and her face went pale. "Lauren, you need to get out of here," she said. "If he showed up once, he'll do it again." She was right. Dad wasn't the type to let go, and I couldn't keep looking over my shoulder. That night, I called Megan Foster, my friend from college who'd always said her spare room was open if I needed it. "Come over tonight," Megan said, no hesitation. "You'll be safe here." I packed my suitcase in under an hour, just clothes, my laptop, and a few photos of me and Ethan. Hannah helped me load the car, her eyes worried. "Text me when you're settled," she said, hugging me tight. I drove to Megan's apartment, a quiet place in a gated complex on the edge of Atlanta. She welcomed me with a warm smile and a glass of iced tea, but I could barely relax. My phone buzzed with another text from Ethan. "Dad's talking to some guy named Rick, saying he's gonna deal with you." Be careful, my stomach twisted. Rick was Dad's old drinking buddy, the kind who'd start fights at bars. If Dad was pulling him into this, things were getting dangerous. I sat at Megan's kitchen table, opened my laptop, and got to work. First, I changed my phone number, cutting off any chance of more threats. Then, I added extra security to my bank accounts. New passwords, biometric logins, the works. Finally, I downloaded a restraining order form from the county website and started filling it out. If Dad or Mom came near me again, I'd have the law on my side. Megan peeked over. "You're handling this like a pro," she said. I gave a small smile. "Just trying to stay one step ahead." Before bed, I called Ethan. "If Dad or Rick do anything weird, lock your door and call me," I told him. "I'm fine," he said, but his voice was tight. "Just don't worry about me. I'll hold on till I'm 18. I swallowed hard. "You're not alone, Ethan. When you're ready, I'll help you get out." He went quiet, then whispered, "Thanks, Lauren." I hung up, staring at the ceiling. Megan's place was safe, but my mind was still racing. Dad might keep coming, but I was done running scared. I was building a life he couldn't touch, and I'd make sure Ethan got one too. 2 years passed since I left that house, and I'd built a life I could call my own. I moved into a small apartment near my logistics job in Atlanta, with a sunny balcony and a coffee maker I actually had time to use. Ethan stayed behind, stuck in that dark house with Mom and Dad, but we texted every day. He'd tell me about school, his part-time job at a gas station, and how Dad's temper got worse without me to blame. Mom just retreated, barely speaking like she'd given up. I hated that Ethan had to deal with it, but he was stubborn, determined to leave on his own terms. "I'll wait till I'm 18, he'd say. "I don't want them saying I ran away." I respected that, but I was always ready, just one call away. The day Ethan turned 18, he texted me, "I'm ready, Lauren. No fanfare, no big announcement." I drove to the house the next morning, my car humming along the familiar roads. Ethan was waiting on the porch, a black backpack slung over his shoulder. He looked taller, his face harder, like the last 2 years had aged him. The backpack held a few shirts, a pair of sneakers, and a dog-eared sci-fi novel we used to read together. Nothing else. The house behind him was silent, curtains drawn, no sign of Mom or Dad. "They didn't even say goodbye," he said, tossing his bag in my trunk. I shrugged. "Their loss." We didn't look back as we pulled away. I helped Ethan settle into a dorm at the community college where I'd studied. We spent the day signing paperwork, buying textbooks, and setting up his tiny room with a cheap desk lamp and a second-hand rug. That night, we grabbed dinner at a burger joint near campus, the kind with sticky tables and neon signs. Ethan took a bite of his cheeseburger and grinned, the first real smile I'd seen from him in years. "This feels free," he said. I nodded, my throat tight. "It is, and you earned it." Over fries, we talked about his plans, maybe majoring in computer science, maybe moving to a bigger city one day. For the first time, he sounded like he believed in a future. Later, I heard through a cousin that Mom and Dad's life had fallen apart. They couldn't keep up with rent and got evicted from the house. Now they were in a rundown apartment complex, the kind with broken windows and police sirens at night. Mom took extra shifts at the grocery store, but it wasn't enough. Dad bounced between odd jobs, always quitting when someone disrespected him. They sent a letter to my old address, forwarded by a neighbor. It was half apologies, half accusations, begging for help. I didn't respond. Ethan didn't either. We'd given them years of chances, and they'd thrown them away. As we left the burger joint, Ethan looked at me. "You think they'll ever get it? What they lost?" I shook my head. "Doesn't matter. We've got each other and we're not going back." He nodded and we walked to my car under the Georgia stars. That night, I knew we'd both made it out, not just from the house, but from the weight of a family that never deserved us. A few months after Ethan moved into his dorm, we met up at a park near my apartment in Atlanta. It was a warm fall afternoon, the kind where the leaves glowed orange and the air smelled like earth. We sat on a bench by the lake, watching ducks glide across the water. Ethan was different now, his shoulders looser, his laugh easier. He'd just aced his first computer science quiz and was already talking about internships. I sipped my iced coffee, feeling a pride that warmed me more than the sun. "You're killing it, Ethan," I said. He grinned, tossing a pebble into the water. "Couldn't have done it without you, Lauren." I leaned back, letting the moment sink in. 2 years ago, I was packing my suitcase, heart pounding, thinking I'd never escape the weight of that house. Now, here we were, free. Not just from Mom and Dad, but from the guilt, the fear, the endless need to prove we were enough. I thought about everything we'd been through. Dad's threats, Mom's betrayal, the nights I lay awake wondering if I'd done the right thing. Leaving wasn't just about walking away, it was about choosing ourselves. Happiness didn't come from enduring pain or fixing people who refused to change. It came from the courage to start over, even when it hurt. Ethan turned to me, his voice soft. "You ever miss them? Even a little?" I looked at the ripples on the lake. I miss who I hoped they'd be, but not who they are. He nodded like he'd been wrestling with the same thought. We didn't need a perfect family. We had each other, and that was more than enough. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky pink, I felt something settle in me, a quiet strength, a certainty that we'd be okay. I stood, brushing grass off my jeans. "Come on, let's grab some tacos before you head back." Ethan laughed and followed. As we walked, I thought about everyone watching this story unfold. What do you think about our choice to leave? Was it too harsh, or was it the only way to protect ourselves? Share your thoughts below, and let's talk about what it means to choose your own path. This isn't just our story. It's a reminder that you have the right to rewrite your life. Sometimes, letting go of the people who hurt you, even family, is the first step to finding peace. It's not about revenge or running away. It's about standing up, packing your bags, and walking toward a future you deserve. Ethan and I did it, and so can you. Don't forget to subscribe our channel for more stories about finding strength in the toughest moments.